So here we are in our backyard.
In the newly discovered secret garden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this they probably can't see the floor or the ground, but
Yeah.
when we first moved into the property, this whole area was overgrown, much like the sides over here, with weeds and everything. And Rory decided to get rid of the weeds and weed whack. And lo and behold, under the weeds, he discovered this wonderful cobblestone uh,
Yeah.
patio area.
And we do have a video that we'll post as well. So the
We
one
do?
where you did the little walkthrough
Oh, right.
right after I did
Okay.
it. Yeah.
But that's not what we're here to talk about
No.
today.
No.
Rory wants to talk about our journey with the dogs to Portugal, which is half of the journey here, really.
Yeah. We watched so many videos about people who brought their dogs over to Portugal or to Europe, and
Traveling with their dogs in cabin and
I don't know. They all. Oh, it was so easy. It was da 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 da. It was great. Yeah. No, not
oh, I don't
so.
think it was that
Oh
bad.
my gosh.
It was stressful, but it wasn't
Yes.
difficult. Really, it starts with we were watching videos for tips on how to get the because they needed international passport
Mm-hmm.
or an EU passport. They needed so there were all these hoops to jump through. Actually, there's vet visits. We're not telling you how to do it. Go research it, but do your research because you need to do certain appointments at certain times and send your paperwork in at a certain time. Um, of course, it changed. The paperwork had to go into the
DA,
USDA
and it was
10 days before, and then
within 10 days,
within
and
10
within ten
days,
days of travel.
within 10 days of travel, and then they get it back to you. However, because of certain government changes and layoffs and stuff, when we sent it in 10 days before, they said, oh, no, we extended that to 20 because we're backlogged. We
Yeah, it was short staffed because of layoffs
because
and
we can't.
firing. So
If we arrived in Portugal with the dogs without that paperwork in hand, we would not be let in, and neither would they.
although we did contact the Portuguese government that was in charge or in control of the animals coming into the country, and they were very helpful. Once we got somebody that spoke English, he was very, very helpful, and he basically said all the paperwork we sent to the USDA should be enough to get the dogs in, but they would have to be self or house quarantined, home
Quarantined,
quarantined.
home quarantine for 30 days.
I think so, something like
Yeah.
that. But in our own home, we just couldn't go out on the streets with them or whatever. So we thought that was pretty cool that they were being so cooperative there, and they
Yeah.
were doing that because they realized the whole government situation where they were short staffed in the USDA. So anyway, yeah, that was a
And then
little
the
bit of a relief.
and then the day before our flight, we got the paperwork from the
Yes,
USDA.
and we're drinking port from Porto. Just
So fast. Okay, so now we've got our paperwork. We actually prior to that, we were training the dogs to be in their crates because the flight from Atlanta to Boston is a 4 hour flight, right?
yeah, three
three
and a
hour
half.
flight.
Yeah, three,
And then we had a layover in Boston for
8 hours.
8 hours. And then we had another 5 hour flight from Boston to Ponta Delgada. I'm still working on pronunciations. Ponta Delgada. Um, but they had to be in their crates during the entire flight. So we were at the house before we left, feeding them in their carry-on crate. We were putting treats in there. We would put like the little Kongs with stuff inside and put them in there and lock them in. And they seemed to be really, really okay with it.
Yep.
Seemed, keyword there being seemed to be.
But then we ended up traumatizing them because we got to the airport very early because we weren't sure about going through customs with the dogs and all of that. And plus, you have to, when you have dogs, you have to go to the ticket. You can't get pre-tickets. You have to go to the ticket counter. They have to inspect the dog in the case, in the carrying case, and all that. So we got to the airport very early.
I think the most stressful part of checking in for me was going through security and having to take them out of their carriers and hold them and put the carrier
Jeff
through
almost put the dog through the
without the
extra.
dog in it. Somebody said, "Is that your dog?" Anyway, I was stressed. Anyway, and holding the dog, but then they have to check you out, and I was so afraid that got to a penny because they don't like they're not super friendly, but they're not hostile. But they don't like it when people get too close to us, and I was afraid they might snap at one of the security people, but they didn't.
And they've very rarely been in a situation where there's that many people and that much noise and that much activity. So there was that added to it. But yeah, and then once you went through with the dog, they did a swab thing on your hands, and
of course we got stopped at security because of
our explosive dog food.
Our explosive dog food can. They said that the can tested positive for
explosives.
And so they had to empty. So then the crazy thing of it is people probably, well, they know we're crazy. You all know we're crazy. So we're going through security, and it's my suitcase that gets flagged with the explosive dog food, and it's full of dog stuff because we knew when we got here we would need dog stuff. And we only had a couple changes of clothes in our carry-ons. Our check baggage had our other clothes, but here's these crazy, and I heard someone in the background slightly disparaging about people who travel with their pets. It's like, we're not traveling, dude. We're moving.
So, yeah. So now we're all ready to go to Boston. And we get to the gate, and everything seems to be going okay, fine. The dogs, we were able to take them. You're supposed to leave them in the case, the carrying thing the whole time, but that's cruel.
Nobody does it.
And no one does it. So we took them out. They did have pet relief areas there. And so we were able to go and try to get them to go in the pet relief area. And then it came time to board, and the flight was delayed because of a mechanical issue. And then
we were out on the tarmac.
No, they remember originally there was a mechanical issue, and it was delayed like 45 minutes or something
like that.
Yeah, but we thought we have an 8-hour layover in Boston. We're fine. So we get on this plane, and there's no air conditioning. It was a sauna on there. It was so hot, and the dogs are in these cases, and they're panting, and we're trying to give them water and stuff. And we actually pushed back, and rolled out onto the taxiway and went quite a ways and then stopped. And the captain came back on and said they did not fix the problem. We're going back to the gate, and everyone needs to deplane, which people were very happy about because it was so hot.
Oh, it was
like a sauna. It was a sauna flight.
It was.
So then we get back to the gate, and we all get off. And of course, the gate agents they don't have information. So, I mean, the mechanics are working on it, or they're trying to find another aircraft. And so operations is doing all that, but the poor gate agents, they don't have a clue. They don't know anything more than we know. But everybody, of course, thinks they do and wants answers. So we get back to the gate, and
well, by this time, our flight had been delayed so many times, like 5 hours now. We knew that we weren't going to make the connection in Boston. So then we went to work, and we won't go into all those details, but meanwhile, the dogs are in their carry-ons, because whenever we're talking to the gate agents, they want them in the carry-ons. And long story too long already, they put us up in a hotel overnight. No, a motel.
But it accepted dogs, and that was the thing. I'm sure it'd have been nicer if we didn't have the dogs.
Yes, but they put us up in a motel, and we were going to catch the next flight out to New York, because Azores Airlines flies it's every other day, Boston, New York, Boston, New York. So the next day's flight was out of New York. So they changed our tickets, and we flew to New York. However, the next morning when we arrived at the Atlanta airport,
at the ticket counter,
we checked in at the ticket counter. They gave us our boarding passes. We get to the gate, and I will tell you, this guy, he was just nasty. He was nasty.
JetBlue whoever this guy is in Atlanta, he needs to be working on the ramp and does not need to be around people.
The way he was treating other passengers, he was just short, rude. Now, maybe he was having a bad day. Maybe someone had tipped him off, but no one, like this one guy, just asked for directions to customer service. And he went that way.
Oh, he was so rude. The guy actually turned around to him and said, "You're the worst customer service person I've ever had. You're the worst airline employee I've ever encountered."
And then people in the gate area were agreeing with him.
Yes. And it was like, and so Jeff's like, now the only reason Jeff was going to go talk to this guy is because we had a boarding group of D.
Yeah, it was.
And with the dogs, the day before we had a boarding group of A because we have the dogs. So you want to get on and get settled in and get the dogs in place as
quickly as possible.
Yeah. And so he was just going to go ask and say, because we have the dogs, can we get an earlier group?
And he's like, there are no dogs on your boarding passes. Where's it? And he just shut me down and said I needed to leave and go back to the ticket counter.
Yeah, those dogs are not getting on this plane. That's exactly what he said. We're like, oh my gosh.
He wouldn't even look at the change of reservation or anything. So I finally got a supervisor. We worked through it. The supervisor was very helpful and very kind. They looked up the previous. They let the dogs go on the flight. But I then knew that the person who had rebooked our tickets for the next day left the dogs off. So we were nervous now about New York.
Right.
And so we get to New York.
We get to New York and we get there at about, I think it was like 11:30 or something in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Or in the morning. 11:30 in the morning. And the SATA, Azorian Airlines SATA, their ticket counter doesn't open until 5 p.m. because our flight was at 8. So now we're in this airport with the dogs again. And there was an outdoor pet relief area. So we bring them to this outdoor in the parking lot. It was like cars rushing by and stuff. It was this little fenced in area. So we brought them there a couple of times and we went and had some lunch, that gourmet lunch you get in an airport. And so, we actually asked somebody, where's the best place to get, food? And they're like Terminal 1. Or maybe that was the last time I flew. They told me that because they said, yeah, there's all these great restaurants and it's like McDonald's. And it was like, really? Anyway, so we had lunch and waiting on the counter to open. And now I will tell you, every encounter I've had with a SATA employee has been amazing.
And this was too.
Amazing. On the phone, when we're planning all this, in person. So just amazing.
It's the Portuguese way.
It is the Portuguese way. So we get there and we go up to the counter and
lo and
behold, you don't have dogs on your passport, on your thing in the system. And we're like, so they looked up the day before, they saw we had dogs. So they were now, here's the problem. You can only have 4 dogs in the cabin on any given flight. So they had to now check to make sure there were no other dogs already registered on the flight or we wouldn't have been able to get on. But they were being very, very helpful.
The other thing is they couldn't verify. They saw it was on the boarding pass, but they couldn't verify that we had already paid for it because some people put it on the boarding pass and pay for it at the gate. We prepaid, but they couldn't find that. So we ended up paying for the dogs.
Oh, we never got that refunded either, did we?
No, I couldn't. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
It's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it.
It was 250 euros more, but just for the peace of mind of getting here, I went online and I couldn't find how to do it. And so,
yeah. Well, anyway, yeah. So they ended up getting.
Leave me alone.
However, okay. So on JetBlue, we were seated in seat A and B, and it was a two seat. No, A and C,
because it was 17 A and C.
Well, no, that 17 was on SATA. I'm talking about JetBlue.
Oh, and JetBlue.
The flight over, we were sitting right next to each other, and the aircraft had 2 seats and 3 seats. So they gave us the 2 seats. So we had the dogs. We were great. Flip. SATA has a different policy. You have to be in a window seat with an animal on board. So
because of emergencies,
we're not going to be able to sit together now. So, but it wasn't a very full flight. So they said, well, we have to block rows anyway for like weight and balance. So they blocked the entire row 17 for us. And
Yeah, they
so
gave
I had
us
one window and Jeff had the other
17A
window
and D or
and,
whatever it
and
was,
F,
and F,
A
17A
and
and
F,
F.
but they blocked the whole rest of the row. So we had this whole row. And so that was great. Um, Now the dogs were great from Atlanta to
Boston.
New York.
I'm sorry,
We
New
didn't go.
York.
We ended up going to
Atlanta to New
Boston,
York.
to New York. They were great on the plane, but now they
And they
are
were actually very well behaved in the airport.
in the
Gato only
airport. Yep.
barked at somebody a couple times.
Yes.
Penny was just freaking out as she does.
And Penny was fine in the case because she would stick her head out and be fine. Gato had decided no more carrying case. I do not like this. I do not want to be in here. And so she would whine, and if you opened it up a little bit, she not just pop her head out, she would try to completely come out. So you had to hold her back in there, and she cried the entire flight. So we're about to land. I'm so grateful. Oh my gosh, Gato's going to be able to get out of this case and be fine. She was so stressed out. I felt so bad for her. And as we were coming in, it was very windy here, by the way. It can get very, very windy here, like 60-mile-an-hour gusts. As we were coming in, the plane turned completely sideways about 300 feet off the ground, and they aborted the landing. They took off again. They just revved the engines and took back off. And we had to do this big circle eight.
And they came in from the other direction.
And they came from the other direction.
So if anybody wants to see that landing flight pattern, actually, a friend of ours here looked it up and sent me a screenshot of it. So just send me an instant message.
It's like all over the place.
What do you call it? Messenger.
Yeah.
Or whatever, WhatsApp. And I'll send you a screenshot of our landing. It was interesting.
So it was another 15 minutes before I could get my baby out of the case. But we got here. We went through security, which was
and the vet at the airport was
amazingly
She
easy.
was so kind. Well,
the government vet, yeah.
Yeah, when we realized we missed our flight, I immediately emailed them to say we're not, because you have to let them know that you're coming so that they have a vet at the airport. And I emailed her immediately and said, we missed our flight. We won't be there until the next day. And when we got here, she said nobody does that. And she really appreciated it. So I think that kind of helped us a little bit.
She was very friendly. Now, here's a couple things outside of the dogs, because we were going to talk about the dogs on this. But remember, originally we were on the plane, then we got off, and then it got delayed so long that we couldn't get to Boston. But our luggage did. So our luggage went to Boston. And we the next day went to New York and then to Punta Delgada. So they were able to track the luggage in Boston, and it was on the next flight out of Boston. Actually, I'm not sure what happened. But anyway, they delivered it to our house.
And if you saw the other video where we were talking about how deliveries work, it worked the same way.
Yeah,
they knocked on the door and
backed up traffic, and we're like grabbing our bags and thanking the guy. And so there is that. And yeah, it was an adventure, but we're so grateful to be here. And
actually, I mean, I think for drama purposes, I honestly don't think it was that traumatic for the dogs. I know that, Penny was fine. She was just like,
Penny was fine.
If I unzipped it just enough for her head to pop out and she could do this, she was fine and she was quiet. Gato just took a little bit more coddling because she's more of an active dog. So
she freaked out.
If you're planning on traveling with your fur child, if you will, we did not do this, but we were going to. They say not to sedate them, but there are like CBDs and things like that might, we might have, if we were going to do it again, which we're not, because we're not going anywhere, we might consider testing some CBD on Gato because she's a little bit more of an active dog than Penny.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think it was that hard. It was just stressful because it was unfamiliar. I think the next time it would be even better.
Yes, I agree. And the only other thing that happened because of this delay was we were actually supposed to close on this house
on the 30th.
On the 30th, and
I'm sorry, the 31st of March.
Is it 31 days in March or 30?
Yeah, 31 days in March.
You sure? Okay.
Yeah, watch. See, January, February, March.
Okay.
If it's on your knuckle, it's 3-1.
All right. There you go. See? Maybe I'll edit this out so people don't realize how stupid I am. Anyway, so it was supposed to close at the last day of March. And because we got delayed, they had to delay the whole closing and everything until April Fool's Day.
April 1st. So
we closed on our house on April Fool's Day. But we had to get off the plane, go through all that stuff, customs, and with the animal customs, and then we get through, and then also talk to them about our baggage. We had a driver. We paid a driver extra money. First of all, his car wasn't that big. That was disappointing. Because we had four big bags, and so we paid extra to have somebody be able to bring us to our house to accommodate these 4 big bags. Now we don't have our luggage. We had 2 carry-on bags and 2 dogs. So anyway, he brings us to our house. We get here.
We haven't closed yet.
Right. The real estate agent that was for the seller of the house met us here and let us in, and actually let us keep our dogs here. And put our luggage, the luggage we had, a little bit, in the house until after closing, in which case we'd get the key. So actually, he gave us a key before, because we had the key before. I just couldn't open the door.
Right.
So anyway, so all that happened, and
that's
you go to the bank.
That's a whole nother video.
That's another video. You going to the bank?
Yeah, we'll do a video on the banking.
On the deed, the closing.
The closing. That might be, because this has been a long video already.
It has. I might edit this part off anyway. Who knows? Well, I'm definitely going to edit off the part about me being stupid about the months, but
people want to know us.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, well, until next time, I'm out of port, so I need to go back inside.
So I need to get up and turn off the video?
You need to get up and turn off the video.